everyone, and welcome back to Did You Know Doji. And today we're going to be talking about a game that a lot of people would also consider to be a PlayStation 1 classic. None other than Spyro the Dragon. Now, you may have noticed in previous videos I've referenced Spyro, but as a kid I honestly never really finished the first one. So I decided why not go back and take a look at it, and since I'm much older, I'm pretty sure my perspective of it will be much more clear. Won't have any nostalgia goggles. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Spyro the Dragon coming out in the year of 1998 and created by Insomniac Games, who would go on to create other PlayStation mascots Ratchet and Clank. Now, during the time of Spyro's creation, the Sony PlayStation was still in its early years and looking for games to settle its place among the already established names like Nintendo and Sega. And looking in retrospect, the only real competition they had at this time was Nintendo. Yeah, I said it. The Sega Dreamcast went out in a blaze of fire and destruction. I mean, look, let's be honest, I like the console, but let's be real here. You saw the way it did. But anyway, Spyro would come out in an attempt to be a contender, the mascot of Sony. Now prior to this, Insomniac had made one other game called Disruptor, but this would be the first true attempt at a big game, and overall, it would set their legacy. Now what exactly is Spyro as far as the game goes? Well, overall, it's an adventurous platformer going along with one of the more popular styles of games during the 90s. Now, overall, the story of Spyro is you're a young dragon, the runt of the litter, and literally no one takes you seriously. But when Nasty Nork, who, by the way, is the villain, comes in and turns all the other dragons into stone statues, guess who everyone has to depend on? This guy. That guy right there. Yeah, him. And to be quite honest, that's really it as far as story and objectives go. Besides your main mission being to save all the dragons, side missions will include treasure collecting and also the collection of dragon eggs, which will introduce you to this guy, this awful creature who I kinda just want to kill every time I look at him. But I'll talk about him more when the time comes. Now what makes Spyro a bit different from other platformers during this time, except for maybe Super Mario 64, but that's a bit different, was the idea of an open world that it created. While games like Crash still had levels to choose from in a small hub, Spyro made this different by introducing a big hub world to give you space in between the levels that you would go in. Kinda like, well, you get the point. Also, something different about Spyro are his abilities, such as having multiple attacks like his charge move or his fire breathing ability. With this being a factor, it makes for different enemy types. While you may run into some enemies you can't blow fire at, you must charge into them. Then you'll find others that you can't charge into, so you must blow fire at them. So it gives options and different strategies to defeat enemies. Something I find to be unique overall, not to mention that Spyro has the ability to fly, but since he is Tiny Dragon, only for a limited amount of time. But it gives platforming a different angle to it, as well as having to know when is the right time to fly to a different platform, or if you should wait, or if some area is even obtainable by flight. Overall, I'd say Spyro controls pretty well as a character, and everything feels pretty tight all in all, so for the most part, not bad, Insomniac. Not bad at all. Now Spyro also has a little companion, Sparks, the dragonfly, who is a reflection of your life. When he's yellow, you have 4 hits, blue 3, green 2, and after that, you're on your own, buddy. Better not die. Now to replenish your health, you must attack defenseless creatures, which will release butterflies that Sparks will eat. And that's Spyro's system of health, which I find pretty interesting. Something else that also is pretty awesome about Spyro is the music. Now interesting enough, you'll find that the music in this game is made by Stuart Copeland, also the drummer for the Police. And if you couldn't tell by my extensive vinyl collection that I have of them, I am most definitely a fan. But the music in this game is pretty amazing, nice melodies and rhythms, and you already know I can't explain music well, so here, just listen to it. So with all the positive things I've had to say about Spyro, I now have to say the things I dislike about this game. And this is the point where I pretty much commit channel suicide, because I'm going to be 100% honest. So where do I start? Well, to be frank, this game is honestly not as great as I remember. So to start, let's go into level design. Now to be honest, in the first couple levels, things are very interesting. Levels look beautiful, enemies look interesting, and everything feels put together well. But as the game progresses, this feeling gets lost. Levels start to feel jumbled to me, and as the game progresses, enemies become less interesting and almost annoying. It came to the point where I was no longer interested in seeing what the next level had to offer because of my lack of interest. And also, remember this guy I was talking about? He's literally the bane of your existence. Not only do you have to chase him down to get the dragon eggs he's stolen, But then, to make things worse, he has the nerve to taunt you while chasing him down. Yeah, I know it's a petty reason to be upset, but whatever. Wait, you know what, now that I actually think about it, that's a good incentive to keep you chasing him, so that's actually not that bad. Okay, so scratch it off the things I hate, that's actually pretty good. Anyway, moving on. Now another thing in this game you may notice is that each time you release a dragon, they will give you some advice as far as playing the game and learning mechanics about the game. Now that would be great and all, but the problem is usually by the time you reach the dragon who gives you the advice, you've probably already used the technique they teach you. So when you do reach them, the information they give you is kind of pointless. And speaking of pointless, some dragons won't even give you any advice. They simply say,
"Thank you for releasing me."
And this isn't a major problem, it's more so of a nuisance. It's just something that didn't need to be there. While there's essentially nothing wrong with the useless NPCs, sometimes it just takes away from the immersion in the game. Other things that I feel take away from Spyro being a better game is a lack of progression. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, in many other games, as you advance in the game, you may earn a new power or learn some new ability that gives you a feeling of growth as a character. Overall, it makes it feel like you're working towards something bigger and better. Another thing is, I feel within each new level, there's a lack of direction. Now we all know the main goal is to either free the dragons, collect treasure, or get dragon eggs. And all in all, that's fine. But I feel like with a game that isn't completely linear, it can sometimes lead to boredom and confusion. I mean, with this style of gameplay, the game literally drops you into the level and you just go. And you have to basically figure out where things are and how to do things. Now in theory, that's not a bad idea, but for some reason, at least for me, it just doesn't work well in this game, especially with how open the levels are. Now in a game like Crash Bandicoot, which I'm comparing it to because, well, we all know why. They're always going to be compared to each other. I feel like it can drop you into the game without saying anything or giving you an objective because of how linear the game is. There's barely any room for error as far as things go. You will find the crystal and you will find the end of the game with no problem. But with a semi-open world game like Spyro, objectives in each level are needed, at least to give each level a purpose and overall goal. One last thing to point out with this game is the final boss battle, and dear lord how awful it is. Now with this boss battle, you have to jump through hoops and obstacles just to get to the real battle. The first thing you have to do is get a key, and guess who you have to get this key from? Yeah, you see my point? You see what I'm getting at here? And then after you chase him down to get the key, you can go fight Nasty Narc. Ha! No, not really, because guess what? You just got a key so that you can get another key, and guess who you have to get the other key from? Oh, whoop-de-doo. Surprised? You shouldn't be. So after you get the key again, then you begin chasing after Nasty Narc, and after multiple times chasing him down, trying to get it right, you'll eventually catch up to him, blow fire on him, and then it's over. The first part at least. After that, you have to catch up to him and blow fire at him a second time while flying and trying to avoid falling in the lava. Which, mind you, if you do fail, you have to do it all over again. That's right, you have to get the 2 keys again, chase him down the first time again, and then try to avoid the lava all again for a second time, or however many times you died. And for me, it was a decent amount of times. So let's just be real, Spyro as a game, it sucks. It just sucks. It's not a good game at all. Insomniac, you failed. You failed. This is your big chance and you failed. This game is not a classic. I'm saying it. Dusting my hands off. Yeah, you heard me. This game sucks. It's not good. I know what you're thinking, but take off those nostalgia goggles and you'll see this game is awful. It doesn't even deserve to be considered a classic, alright? I'm just gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I disappointed you, but that's just how I feel. I'm not even gonna say the outro. Bye! Well, it's been about a week since I've reviewed that Spyro game. Why not take a look at the comments right now? I mean, come on. We're adults here. I'm pretty sure people are respective of the feelings that I have towards the game. So, let's take a look at these comments.
Wow. Kill yourself. Stupid, worthless, retarded, idiot, troglodyte.
Literally the cancer of YouTube.
Wow, you might as well shut your channel down. You literally know nothing about video games. Here, I'll get you another brain cell, cause yours is lonely.
Huh, well, maybe people weren't so receptive to my review. Lucky for me, I can rewind time and prevent all this from happening. That's canon in this show now. I have time travel abilities. So, let's go back. Okay, real quick, let me say this much.
Now look, my point remains the same. Spyro is not a perfect game, but I wouldn't say that it's bad. It's just clearly a first attempt. I mean, hey, Crash wasn't perfect when it first came out either. See, I'm not ridiculously in love with Crash. I can criticize it. But overall, I feel Spyro is the epitome of a first attempt. It displays good ideas that will continue on in the series. So I think since this isn't the only game in the series, there's room for improvement, which did happen in later games. Because if it weren't for that, everything I said would still stand.
Now, let's be realistic here. Spyro is not perfect, but from what I recall at least, saying this again, Ripto's Rage was a whole lot better. So the fact that they were able to progress and make better choices with the second Spyro game, that makes things totally acceptable in my case. See, that's kind of the beauty of a retrospective and not a review. With the retrospective, you can look in the past and see that, sure, the game wasn't perfect, but it was a starting point and things got better. And with Spyro, once again from what I recall, things got better. But maybe eventually I'll be able to review Ripto's Rage and Year of the Dragon. If I get those games. I don't have the money to get them right now, but hopefully eventually. So, thank you so very much for watching. I'm Doji. Now you know. See you next time.